Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Dear Mom, I'm Gay podcast. And I am here with a fabulous actor from the Chicago area, Rich Adrian Lazatin. Say hello, Rich.
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone who's listening.
Yes, I'm excited that you said yes to this. Yeah, Rich and I met this last summer during the Pride monologues, and he was fabulous. Your acting is incredible, and I don't know if I
Thank you.
praised. You're welcome. I don't know if I praised you enough because it was brilliant, and I gave you a couple really difficult monologues too, and you were wonderful. So when I was thinking of fun people, and you also have a very fun personality. So when I
Thank
was
you.
yes, so when I was thinking of fun people that I could have on here, I was like, I wonder if Rich will do it because you're amazing. So we're gonna start. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. You're in Chicago. You're studying. Tell us a little bit about your journey in Chicago.
Yeah, I currently attend DePaul University.
Hmm.
My journey throughout DePaul has been really great. I am a double major and a triple minor,
That's
so
intense.
I'm a glutton for punishment. But yeah, my double major is in acting and communication studies. And my triple minor is in relational communication, intercultural communication, and performance studies. So I'm very much a people person. I love storytelling and I love understanding other people's stories as well as like how my story relates to that. Yeah.
I love that. So what's the dream when you're done with college? Like what's your biggest, doesn't have to be practical, biggest dream when you're done with college?
Hopefully being a professional working actor in Chicago. I would
Yeah.
love to stay in the Chicago city because I've grown up watching Chicago theater and I've loved it. And I feel like my queer Filipino American identity has a place in the Chicago theater community. I've watched a lot of queer theater in Chicago and I've loved the representation that I'm seeing in terms of the stories that we're telling as a community.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think Chicago, for I don't know why, but sometimes their theater scene, like on a global scale, gets overlooked. And I think their theater is just as good as New York's. I've spent just as much time in Chicago watching shows as I have in New York.
Yeah.
And Chicago has some amazing, amazing theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I my very first Broadway show I saw years ago was Wicked, and I saw that in Chicago. And I guess it wasn't my first, but my first like not in Michigan tour. Yeah, so and it was incredible. But I've gone there many a times, and I have some friends that sing with the opera in Chicago, and I go there and see them. And yeah, the theater and opera and classical music in Chicago are just up there with everywhere else in the world. Like it's
The great
incredible.
scene, yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of work in Chicago too, and it's been amazing.
Mm.
So, well, good for you. I love that. You are, and this is that your last semester right now you're in?
Yes, my
Yes.
last quarter at DePaul. So I'm finishing it up. I'm currently in a show this quarter, so that's also on my plate.
Nice. What show are you in?
I'm in The Boys in the Band,
Nice.
and I'm playing Michael. So it's a lot of character work. He's a very complex, layered character. He's the one who throws. For those who don't know, Boys in the Band is about nine gay men in New York City during the 1960s, and they throw a birthday party together. And it's a lot of chaos. A lot of secrets come out. It's a very dramatic heavy play, but I don't think it's rooted in, it's not a trauma play. My director really wants to advance that this isn't a trauma play. It's about humans experiencing life, essentially, which is what theater should be and
A-
what acting should be.
Absolutely. What are the dates for that? We're just going to go ahead and plug it because maybe I want to come.
Amazing. We open May 2nd
Okay.
through the 7th. And yeah, it's at the theater school at DePaul University.
All right. I wrote it down because because that was revived on Broadway last year, or was it just new on Broadway last year? I don't
I
know.
think it was revived on Broadway
Yeah,
last year. Yeah.
and I remember reading a lot about it, and I wanted to see it, and I didn't make it to New York. So I'll just have to come to Chicago and see you in it. That would be brilliant.
Perfect.
All right, we're gonna dive into our little game. So, for if you're a new listener, we're just going to play a game that some people would call 20 questions, but I call it 5 questions. And it's just a fun little game just to get to know Rich a little better and find out what makes them tick and some interesting facts about them. And I love these questions. I actually like these more than the serious ones just because I feel like you can tell a lot about a person from little simple questions sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to start with one of my favorite ones on the list. What was your favorite childhood toy?
My favorite childhood toy. I had a very brown. I distinctly remember this because I would sleep with this teddy bear. It was a very brown teddy bear that I would sleep with every night up until I think I would say I was in 6th grade. Which, yeah, up until then I had this very brown teddy bear, and I named him Alfred.
That's cute. Alfred the teddy
And
bear.
Alfred the teddy bear, and I would tell him, I would talk to him. I think I put on him an imaginary companion, and it was just sort of my first kind of companion relationship, and it was really great that I had that sort of source of confidence, and I was able to tell him my secrets, the what I was experiencing in elementary school, all the drama that I was going through. And yeah, I loved being able to just have that sort of source of comfort and protection as a little kid, which I think a lot of little kids have that in their toys and
Hmm.
in their sort of sense of play.
That's adorable. First of all, that's adorable. Do you still have the teddy bear or is it gone forever?
I do not. I think it's
Oh,
gone. I think it got donated.
sad. I feel like that's something that should have been kept for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't do that with any of my things. The only toy that I have from when I was a kid is I kept my original pink Power Ranger because that was like one of my favorite things. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the only one that I saved. And I don't even have it like on display. It's like in a box in the basement. I should probably like do something with that. But
Go
anyways,
find it.
yeah. All right, are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm more of a tea slash chai drinker. I love
Okay.
a good chai, like an iced. My go-to
Yes.
Starbucks order. I was in the suburbs. I was back in the suburbs for spring break, and I was with my sister. And my sister is a Starbucks diehard fan.
Love that.
She loves her Starbucks. If I ever ask her to like want to hang out, she's like, "Let's go to Starbucks," and I was like, "Okay, let's go." And so we had the same go-to order. It's an iced vanilla chai with cold cream foam, and it's just delicious. If you ever get the chance to try it, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, an iced chai will make me a very happy guy.
I love that. My drink at Starbucks is also a nice chai, but I don't get the foam on top. I might have to like add this
Yeah.
to my drink the next time I go. I think the people at Starbucks would have a heart attack if I changed my drink. Literally, I'm not lying. I don't know what this says about me or if it's just good customer service.
Are you a regular?
I am. When they see my car in the parking lot, they just make my drink. Not lying. So,
Love
because
it,
I
love
never
it.
change it. So they just see my car and I literally walk in and they already have it made.
It's
And then I
Dave.
just
We know
leave.
it's Dave.
Yeah. So I'm not, but I used to work at Starbucks and I used to do that for customers too, because most people don't
Mm-hmm.
really change their drink very often.
Mm-hmm.
So if I saw them in line and I knew it, and it was like a long line and I knew what they were going to get, I would just make it. And that way they didn't have to wait extra long because I already knew.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but I think we're supposed to do that at Starbucks. So I feel special, but I'm pretty sure it's like in the rule book, but whatever.
Yeah.
I still feel special. I like it. All right. What household chore do you hate the most?
Ooh. I would say for household chores, I really hate taking out the trash.
That's a good
There's
one.
I live in a studio apartment in Lincoln Park, and I have the tiniest. I'm looking at it right now as I'm talking to you. I have the tiniest like black like trash can.
Hmm.
So it's so hard. Like whenever I have like a lot of trash to throw away, it gets filled up so quick. So I have to like throw it out like every couple of days. So it's definitely a chore, and I have to go outside to throw out my trash because in the apartment complex the garbage cans are like right outside. So it's a whole journey. It's a whole journey into the nighttime
Yeah, I bet.
having to throw away my trash.
That sounds awful. So this is a random story, but I can sort of relate. So I lived in a small place in New Jersey, just outside of New York City, for a couple years. And I don't know if Illinois has this. Do you have like coin return? Like, do you get 10 cents when you return a bottle?
We do have that. Yeah.
Okay, so we do in Michigan as well. So I moved to New Jersey and I was trying to be like this really cool roommate. And this became an ongoing thing. Like our plastic bottles and beer bottles, we were young, were
Mhm.
always overflowing. So when I first moved there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take, because we had hundreds of them and they weren't even mine. But I was like, I'm going to tidy up and I'm going to take all these to the grocery store with me and I'm going to return them and then I'm going to use the money to get like toilet paper and like things that we all need. Like I thought I was being
Mm.
the best roommate ever. Mind you, I did not have a car or anything. So I got like 4 bags, huge bags of trash bags full of these bottles that I'm going to return. And I get the whole way to the grocery store and I'm wandering through the grocery store with these 4 bags of trash. People probably thought I was crazy.
Oh
And
no.
for me to learn that New Jersey does not have bottle return deposit. And I was like, cool. So what do
Mm.
I do with these 4 garbage bags?
What am I gonna do?
So I saw the recycling dumpster out back, and I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to put things in there. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna make it still look like I'm an awesome roommate. I'm putting all of these in there. And but yeah, that was so embarrassing. Literally, I walked to the store like 4 or 5 times with these giant garbage bags. And then ongoing that became a chore that all of us would like put off because they would just overflow, and we would all look
Hmm.
at it and walk by it. And I feel like I was always the one that eventually gave in and did it because they were gross.
Oh no.
It was what it was. And I don't really drink like alcohol, so like most of it wasn't
Yeah.
mine either. So, but
Yeah.
I don't like when things are messy. Like if it's untidy, that's one thing, but like messy, sticky, gross, like drink things, no, that's gross.
Yeah, and I'm a
Yeah.
huge neat freak, so I have to, whenever there's any like litter, or like when my partner comes over, whenever like he throws something away, I immediately like have to like take it, wipe it down, like make sure everything, all the surfaces are clean, because I'm a very type A like neat freak. So yeah, I can't have a messy space.
I love that. All right, we got 2 more questions for our little game.
Perfect.
All right. If you had a time machine, would you go to the future or the past?
I think I would go to the past. I
Hmm.
think just one, logically for me, just in terms of all like the future movies that I've seen where the main protagonist goes to the future, it never really ends well. So
That's true.
I don't really want to follow in their footsteps. I wouldn't want to go to like my future self and like mess something up in the future. I would rather go to the past, and I would love to know if the story, I've heard multiple variations of how my parents have met.
Okay.
And I would love to know what the actual story is and what actually happened in terms of their love story, because I think they have a beautiful love story. My mom, she was a hotel receptionist at Days Inn Hotel. I think there are branches here in America, but she
Hmm.
was in Days Hotel at the Philippines. And my dad was a traveling working engineer for Nokia at the time, the phone company Nokia. And he would always travel on business around the Philippines and around Asia as well. And he got he was assigned to my mom's Days Hotel, and they apparently met while she was like checking him into the hotel, and it was love at first sight for him apparently. And he would always like try to make sure that he was assigned at that hotel whenever he needed to be in the area. So I love when they tell me that love story, because it makes me believe in love and
Yes.
like the possibility that our special someone is out there. but I would just love to see it for myself because I think it would be a beautiful thing to witness because I am the result of that love.
You
So
are. And that's adorable story. I love that. That would be cute to see how they met, like as like a fly on the wall and just watch. Yeah, good answer. I think that was my most unique answer for that question. Good job. Not that
no,
it's a
thank you.
contest, but it is. Okay, this one is my favorite one to ask my musical theater nerds.
Ooh.
I know. All right, you ready? So my show is called Dear Mom, I'm Gay. But if your life was a musical, what would it be called?
That's a great question, Dave.
Isn't it a
If
good one?
my
Yeah.
That's a really good one. If my life if my life were a musical, hmm, that's a really good question. I would say
I know it's hard. I know. I get it on the spot.
that's hard. I think my musical would be called The Adventures of Rich. I
That's
would want to
perfect.
keep it. I would want to keep it simple, and I think just my life, the 22 years I've been on this earth, just my life has just been one big hell of an adventure, and I would love to
No, I
see it
love
on
that.
stage. I feel like it'd be funny.
It is. As someone that's doing it, I mean, mine kind of got further away from my story. And it's kind of like the Disney version of my story, if you will. But it is
Mm-hmm.
weird to watch moments of your life like played out. And the cast that we have in New York, the guy playing me, if you will, and
Mm-hmm.
the woman playing my mom look very similar to me and my mom now, which is weird. And so some of the scenes watching it play out, I was like, "Yep, that's how it went down." So, and it looks real, but it is funny, and it was therapeutic for me to think back on some of those moments, and I was like, "How did I feel about that, or what did we say?"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I have to ask a question that I forgot to ask at the beginning. What are your pronouns?
My pronouns are he, him, his.
Wonderful. And how do you identify within the LGBTQ umbrella?
I identify as a cisgender gay male.
Perfect. That just helps me word the questions a little bit more specifically towards you so they
Perfect.
are work. All right. So, where did you grow up? What was the family dynamic like growing up? What were your childhood hobbies? Was your family religious? Just tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in your household.
For sure. Yeah. My upbringing, I was born in Manila, Philippines in the year 2000, and I was there for about 2 or 3 years. And we moved to America. We moved to Chicago, Illinois first, where my dad was based for work. And then I was about three at the time, and my dad was like, the city really isn't ideal to raise a family. And my mom was like, I agree. I'm not really finding any work here. So they decided to move us out to the suburbs of Aurora, where I spent most of my life
Mm-hmm.
in the suburbs, Aurora, Illinois. And I was raised Catholic. My family was very religious. We were the type of family to go to church on Sundays regularly and dress up for Christmas and Easter. We were a very devout family,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciated because it instilled in me a sense of faith, a sense of morals and values, and a sense of respect for my fellow person.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of there's things that I love about the church, but there's also things that I don't love about the church
Fair.
in, in terms of just how my queer identity, once I was growing up and discovering my queer identity, how my queer identity didn't fit into the church and how people in the church viewed my queer identity. So there were times where I didn't feel safe to express myself freely and queerly in the Catholic Church. But yeah, for the most part, I had a really great childhood. My parents fought just like regular parents about regular stuff,
Right.
money, the kids, about just life in general. But there was never anything like earth shattering or crazy that happened. But all in all, I was blessed to go to public school for all K through 12. So I was very much provided for. I was a very studious kid.
I
I
love
took
that.
honors and AP classes throughout middle school and high school. So I was very studious from a young age. My parents instilled in me, get an education. You need to be educated, which was a very big thing that was emphasized on me. And the need to succeed was, at first I thought it was a pressure from my parents, but then I think now it's a pressure I place on myself and a
Hmm.
standard that I set for myself to succeed, but to also fail. I think I welcome failure into my life, which is something I'm starting to welcome now in my adult life, because I think
Yeah,
you need to embrace and welcome failure. But yeah, that's what my childhood taught me.
I love that. That's a good story. What were your hobbies as a kid? Did you have anything like that, like stuck out that you like loved doing as a kid?
I loved, I did Taekwondo as a kid. So
That's
I
cute.
loved martial arts. I loved moving my body as a kid. It was really fun. I did swimming when I was a kid. And so I think it was also a combination of my mom and dad just being like, you need hobbies. Like, go do something. And I was like, okay, I'll go do something. But I think in the end, it really taught me like, ooh, my body is sacred. My body is a temple. I need to move my body and keep active and to stay in motion.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. When did you first realize that you were gay?
Yes, when I first realized I was gay, I was in middle school,
Okay.
and I was writing this paper, and it was for English class, and we had to write on a topic that we cared about a lot in society. And it was about a social issue. Like, we had to write about a social issue. And I looked into bullying. I looked into the topic of bullying, but it led me down the path of the using the word gay as a derogatory term.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I had been called a plethora of names. I've been called gay. I've been called fat. I've been called queer, fag. I have been called all these names used against me. So as my like middle school brain was like, why are these words being used against me? They're just words. So I ended up doing a lot of research on the paper, and it had to do with just a lot with just like psychology, again, how gayness is viewed in society, and just all the systems that are placed upon us as gay people, that children learn, that children are sort of systemized into.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finished the paper and I shared it with the class, and I got mixed reviews. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just interesting to just see the mixed reactions, because you also see how that person feels about your personhood, essentially your humanity as a
Right.
gay person. And so I was like, okay, interesting. This is the world. This is the society I live in. And so I went home, and I was clearly in a very bad mood. And my parents could tell. My mom asked me, what's wrong? And I was like, I shared my paper with the class, and some people didn't like it. And she was like, it's a paper. Do you want to read it for us? Like, what's it about? And I read the paper for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that created an even bigger conversation with my parents, because my parents at the time, I wasn't out to them, so they didn't know I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
So that essentially led to my coming out story.
Nice. That leads to my
and
next
having
question. So go continue.
so with my coming out story, my mom asked me, do you identify as gay, or are you gay? And I had the instinct to say no, and I had the instinct to be like, no, I'm not, no. But I I had been hiding for so I felt like I was hiding for so long, that I was like, you know what? No, I wrote this paper. I did all this research and I did all this work because I am gay. I am gay.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my mom that, and she was like taking a moment to process,
Right.
because I think the shock hit her first, because keep in mind, I'm the eldest of three.
Okay.
And in my culture, being the eldest son, it's it's a symbolic role in the family that is very much, there's an importance to it, because as the eldest son, I serve as a sort of role model. I serve as a sort of like example child, which that was also a pressure that I had to deal with growing up.
Yeah.
But I think coming out as gay, it just kind of, I don't want to say released that pressure, because I still feel that pressure sometimes, but I think it freed me from these shackles that I put myself in. And so I had that conversation with my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I'm gay.
I love that.
And there's nothing I can really do about it. And with her, she understood more, because I think mothers always know, mothers have that sort of intuition.
Yes.
And it was an easier conversation with her than it was with my dad. With my dad, it it has taken him a number of years to come around to the fact that I'm gay, and the fact that I date men, that I'm currently in a relationship with one. And I think with my dad, it's been, at first the conversation was, you do you, and it, like, whatever happens, it almost felt like the conversation was, if this is the life you're choosing, choose this life, and go live your life.
Right.
But I think my dad, I've really had to have multiple conversations with him, and just experience life, and give him time, and give him grace, and give him patience, and also give him forgiveness, with the fact that I didn't choose this life. I am a gay man. I identify as a gay man, and I was born a gay man.
Right.
And so that's just been a sort of process with adapting our relationship and creating boundaries that protect me, but also protect him and protect our relationship, because I understand the not only the generational gap, but also the cultural gap that is there
Mm-hmm.
between us. For a Filipino father having a Filipino gay son as their eldest son. So I've learned to understand that pressure, but I've also released that pressure from myself in terms of just living my life and living my beautiful gay life.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's important to people. I think there'll be other people that listen to this and relate to that, because I think sometimes as America we forget that even within our country we have many different cultures. And
Mm-hmm.
as an Armenian man, like I experienced some of that. Like my dad and all his brothers are very macho, and as an Armenian man you're expected to be macho. And when I was 5 years old, I was more interested in braiding Barbie's hair. So
Mm.
yeah, and it wasn't something that I was doing. That was what I was naturally drawn to. Like when you're that young, you don't make a conscious decision, right? You're just drawn to the things that you like. I liked Barbie. I liked to braid her hair. I was more interested in changing her outfit than I was in like playing with trucks. And I think to an extent that my dad felt the same way, that I wasn't what he envisioned when he thought he had a son. And I tried really hard
Mm.
to be that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
tried to play sports and I realized that I suck at all of them. Literally. Like, I was horrible. And I tried to do it for my friends. And then finally, I think even before like I realized I was gay, I had accepted that I was just quirky. I think that's what I accepted first. And then I
Mm.
just liked the things I liked and I didn't care. And my parents actually backed off a lot. They let me play with what I wanted to play with. They didn't really push other things. So, but I can relate to that within the culture thing when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
There are different cultures and different like, and your parents are direct immigrants, so that makes
Yep.
it even
Yes.
more of a cultural conversation, I guess, to have with them. And yeah, thank you. That was a great story. All right. Well, you answered my next question. So, my next question was, did you come out to your parents? How did they respond? We know that now. So, how did your other family members respond?
Yeah, that's interesting. So in terms of, yeah, a lot of the reactions I got really began when I went public with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
We went this past summer. We did 2 weeks. We went on a trip. We did 2 weeks in Europe. It was a sort of just celebratory trip to just kind of celebrate the work that I've done and the work that he's done in terms of just living life. And
Mm-hmm.
we just wanted to enjoy, and we wanted to travel together first, because for me, traveling is a big part of my life. I want to see the world when I graduate and when I just live my life. I think traveling is a big part of just like expanding my worldview and just expanding my sense of the world, essentially.
Yeah.
And we did 2 weeks in Europe. We went to Naples in Italy, and we did a week in Barcelona, Spain.
Nice.
And we took lots of pictures. We took lots of videos. We had lots of fun. And when I posted the photos and videos, I first went to Instagram because I don't really have any family on there. It's mainly just friends.
Mm-hmm.
But when I posted to Facebook, I was really apprehensive about it. I discussed it with my partner, and he was totally fine with posting and being public, because not that his family didn't care, but there was just a sort of chillax attitude towards it. And so I didn't feel the same, so I was very much stressed about it. But there came a point in our vacation where I was like, I want to savor these memories, and I want to be able to look back on them and to cherish them. So I posted all our photos, all our videos, both of us together, and it was clear that we were a couple.
Yes.
We looked at each other like we were a couple in the photos and videos, and so there wasn't really any sort of like guesswork around like, are they just really good friends that went to Europe together? What, like, no, we are boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very clear. Again, I got mixed reviews. I think it was a sort of, I had very supportive family members. My grandma, love her. She's currently in the Philippines right now. It's my mom's mom. And she reached out to me and she was like, I love that you're having a great time in Europe, and I hope you and your boyfriend are having a great time. And I was like, I was not expecting that reaction from you.
That's precious. I love that. Yes.
And so it was really wonderful to hear that from her. But I've also, in the past, I've also had relatives that I have had to remove, and I've also had to block on Facebook because of the content that they share, in terms of the perspective that the content has and the lens that the content has about gay people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the content that I would see in the past was about like choosing the spiritual life over the homosexual lifestyle. And it was content like that that just kind of, it felt like an attack on
Yes.
me. And so that I knew that my memories of Europe and my photos and videos would not be safe with those people. And so, yeah, it's a boundary that I set on social media, especially with family,
Mm-hmm.
because I understand that people have different worldviews, particularly when it comes to of religion and sexuality. So I've dealt with that intersection my whole life. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. I would be interested to see what the reaction is like when I get married, because I do plan on getting married in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Of the question of who can I invite, because I don't think straight couples have to worry about that when
Right.
when it comes to getting married. But as a gay couple, I would have to worry about that with my partner, of who can we invite to our wedding, because we don't want anyone ruining the
Yes.
mood or ruining a day of what's supposed to be celebration. So yeah, that I got mixed reviews when it came to other family members.
Yeah. Back to the wedding thing, I can relate to that. So, my partner and I were supposed to get married in 2020. That did not
Hmm.
happen. And then we just kind of got busy and we haven't really rescheduled it, which we got to get on that. But just life got busy and COVID and the world, and now our lives are changed. And but when I was planning it, I planned it in Florida, and this sounds weird, and I had some people get upset with me about it because it was far away. But for me, mentally, it was easier for me to accept that people didn't come because it was far away than they didn't come because it was a gay wedding. And I think like at the time I don't think I consciously made that decision, but like as I thought about it because I had all of 2020 to think about it, I kind of
Mm.
realized that it was like I think that was why I made it far away because it was easier for me if people chose not to come for me to like mentally check it off as like, oh, it's because it's far. Even though
Yeah.
I knew the real reason. But you are right. Like straight people don't have to sit down and be like, "Oh, can I invite this person? Will they come?"
Hmm.
And that's sad that we have to even think about that. But I do have people in my life that I love very dearly that I'm pretty sure would not come, and that would be sad. But I guess it's probably for the best because then it won't wreck my special day with their negative,
Yes. Yeah.
icky energy. But yes, we don't need that on the day. But it is a factor you have to think about. Like, who can I invite? Who's going to come? Who's going to not make my day more stressful than it already is?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Now, are you out to all your friends and everything at school? It sounded like on Instagram you were out to everybody. So are you officially out like at school? Is that cool? I mean, you're in theater, so it's probably pretty accepting, but what's it like to be out at school and all that?
Yeah. The theater school. I'm a flaming homosexual at school, so I really don't have to worry about like the safest I feel is when I'm at school, which is interesting enough because again, the thing weirdly enough that I have to worry about at the theater school and just at DePaul in general is attending a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution.
Okay.
And I more so have to deal with race related microaggressions and just race related incidents than I do with having to deal with being queer and being gay. Like the show that I'm in now, I essentially reached out to my queer identifying professor, and he immediately loved the idea from the get go because he was very passionate about this play. He was alive during the 60s, so it was very much a passion project for him. And we had multiple gay men, but also straight men who were very much excited at the project and wanted to jump on the opportunity to be part of this production. And so it was really great seeing my theater community come together and to really bring this story to life. And I'm very excited about it as an actor. This is Michael in The Boys in the Band is a dream role for me. I'm really excited. I'm scared to play him because he's very close to me in just the way he functions as a person. He's a very type A sort of control freak, sort
Yeah.
of very anxious kind of person. But I'm excited to step up to the challenge of him as a character. But yeah, in terms of my experience at school, I've experienced a lot of love for
Good.
my queer identity and just who I am as a queer person.
I love that. That makes me happy. I think it's important to find that community, especially as someone young. I feel like when you're young, I mean, you always need acceptance throughout your life, but especially in your early 20s, for some reason, that's such a tender part of your life. To find a
Hmm.
place where you can be authentically yourself, I think is really important. All right, we are going to dive into our last segment here. Thank you for being so open and sharing your story.
Of
I
course.
love this podcast. Like when I started this, I'm not gonna lie, it was generally just a way to promote my musical. Not gonna lie about
Mm.
that. But I have found that I love hearing people's story, and everybody has a story. And I think, even though I've only been doing this a couple months, I think it's already made me a more compassionate, better person. Like just actually sitting down and listening to what makes somebody them, I think is important. And so, because I've had many people say, "Are you going to do this after the musical?" And the answer to that is yes to everybody listening,
Hmm.
because I've enjoyed it so much that I'm going to keep going. And it's been crazy to me because I can like look at where people are listening, and people are listening all over the world. So
I love
I
that.
have one listener in the Philippines, and maybe it's your grandma. Maybe that's who's listening.
Oh, I hope
I
so. I
was
hope
wondering because
so.
some countries it's like one person, and I'm like, who is the one person listening and wherever? I want to know who that person is really bad. So if you're that
Yeah.
person, the one person, email me because I really just want to know who you are. So what would you tell LGBTQ plus youth? Anything like what would you tell them, just in general? If a younger you were sitting in front of you, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's great. That's a great question. I would tell them two things. I would say one, in terms of your humanity and your personhood, come out.
Mm-hmm.
Come out when you're ready. Come out not by anyone else's clock except your own, but come out and be unapologetically yourself. Life is way too fucking short to be anyone else but yourself. And as cheesy and as cliche as it is, it's a truth I live by. It's a truth that I live by day to day. And it's a struggle I live with day to day, just being unapologetically myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think queer youth, I think youth in general, because I take example from my sister, I think youth in general, my younger sister, are knowing more and more day by day with just the access to technology, the access to knowledge, and just like the learning curve of society and culture. But I think just in terms of that, just be yourself, just be unapologetically yourself. And I took a class this past quarter about like professional development
Mm-hmm.
as an actor, and my professor, he's a professional, like full-time working Chicago actor, and his advice to us as actors is to stand in what he calls your stank, which stank, as he defines it, is your own individuality, your own uniqueness, what makes you a person, what makes you a human. And I think we all have our own stank, and it would be a disservice to the world if we didn't share that with people, if we didn't offer that truth to people. And I think the second thing along the lines of that I would tell LGBTQ youth is, and I take this from, I think it was Michelle Yeoh who said this in her Oscar acceptance speech, but don't let your dreams stay dreams. I think for me as an actor, I have a lot of dreams, and a lot of them are pretty lofty.
No, that's
but
okay
I
to dream. Yeah, like
exactly, but you, especially for LGBTQ youth and youth of color, I never want to discourage anyone from dreaming. I encourage people to dream. I encourage people to dream crazy, lofty dreams. I encourage people to shoot for the stars, because we never know. We never know what can happen and what can come of those dreams. So yeah, I would tell LGBTQ youth to continue being your perfect self, and to also, yeah, chase your dreams and to continue chasing your dreams.
you just gave me the perfect segue to the last question. What are your dreams for the future?
Oh, perfect.
Yes, you nailed that. It was like you walked right into it. It was gorgeous.
My dreams for the future, I want to keep telling stories in whatever capacity that means, whether it is, for example, what I'm doing right now,
Yes.
telling my story on a podcast, whether it's creating a short film. I'm currently in the I'm in the pre-production process of pitching a short film to grants and just like Chicago filmmakers and fellow actors in my community. And it's about, it's a queer drama slash comedy slash social justice thriller about
Hmm.
a queer POC couple, and it's loosely inspired by my own experience and my partner's experience at queer nightclubs.
Oh.
And it's a night that a queer POC couple goes out to a nightclub, and the night ends, unfortunately, in a shooting. And so it's inspired by my experience with violence and my partner's experience with violence in nightclub spaces. But I think the heart of the film is dealing with the question is what happens when our safe spaces no longer become safe.
Hmm.
Because I think also for me as not just an actor but also as an artist and a social justice activist, our nation is currently in a very complicated state, particularly when it comes to legislation, when it comes to anti-drag legislation, anti-LGBTQ legislation,
Yeah.
and it is a threat to our safety as a community. And so I was so angry and I was so enraged. And instead of taking that anger out on other people or myself, I wanted to create something out of it. And what birthed from that anger and rage and resentment for the nation and what the state is of our nation came this short film. So my dream, hopefully, Dave, in the next
Yes.
coming months, is to produce this short film and hopefully get the money to do this short film, because I would love to do this in honor of just myself, but also queer love and my relationship with my partner, as well as creating representation for LGBTQ youth, that these stories exist and they matter, and your story matters, and who you are as a person matters. Because I said this in my professional development class, I didn't grow up with these kinds of stories. I didn't grow up with the sort of rom-com gay gay.
Right.
Oh, I'm getting emotional. I didn't grow up with these gay like rom-com stories, and I didn't grow up with stories that showcased me on screen
Right.
as a gay Filipino American boy. I didn't get to see myself fall in love on screen, and I would love to see that. And I
Yes.
would love to see that for other LGBTQ youth that don't feel like their stories are being showed on screen. So that, I guess that's also my dream, is to continue telling stories that highlight us and our
Yeah.
communities and our stories and our beautiful, messy lives.
Yeah, I love that. Not to make this all about my musical, but to make this all about my musical. That was important to me when I was creating it. That yes, there's this big coming out scene, and that part's traumatic. But I didn't want the character to be in this always in this sense of trauma, because all
Mm-hmm.
the theater and the movies and things that I remember from the '90s about gay people were all around AIDS and trauma and being rejected. And I understand that they were just reflecting what their life was like at the time. I understand where all
Mm-hmm.
that came from, but I also think it's important to highlight the positive parts of our life, to show that you can be in love, to show that you can have a best friend, to show that you can go to college and have this great life, and that yes, there are parts of your life that are going to be difficult, and being queer definitely adds a whole another dynamic to your life sometimes. But I do think it's important to show the positive too, right? And
Yeah.
it's yeah, and the drag queen thing really quick. That I was aware that it was an issue. I didn't realize how much of an issue it was until this last month. So one of the ways we've been doing funding, I highly recommend this for your film, is we've been doing drag queen bingo, It's a hit. I make great money at it every time. I will give you the details when we're not on air. But it's been a great way for me. A lot of the funding from my show and for our costumes came from Drag Queen Bingo. But this last time, because of all the attention drag queens have gotten, I got so many awful emails from people that once all the ticketed people were in there, we actually had to lock the door. And that's sad that when you said something about our safe places no longer feeling safe, I felt really sad about that because for the last year we've been doing it and it's been so fun. It's my favorite event that we do. I look forward to it every month. And it's another thing that even after this, I'm going to continue it because I think it's important to have queer spaces like that are just a fun monthly thing where we meet and there's no alcohol, there's no club. It's just fun playing bingo together, right? It's important to have those experiences too. And it's all ages. So Lord Jesus, did I get a lot of emails about that? But it's innocent. It's fun. It's cute. We don't get a lot of kids there. We maybe get 5 or 6 and they come with their parents. They come with their mom and it's a great way for them to see something different and see a different person. But it just breaks my heart that in the last month or two, it no longer feels as safe as it did. And that's, so I think the more we share, the more we get our stories out there, the better, because we're not going anywhere. We're here. We're part of society, whether or not people want us here. Like we are here and we are valid and it's important. All right. Last thing. This is your chance to plug anything you want to plug. Tell people where they can find you if they're in the Chicago area so they can come see your performances. So just tell us where people can find you, follow you, all those things.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Rich Adrian Lazatin. I'm a graduating BFA 4 actor from the theater school at DePaul University. You can find me on Facebook at Rich Adrian Lazatin, Instagram at Rich Lazatin. And yeah, those are my main social media channels. Feel free to reach out if you ever want to connect, collab, or make some art. I love making art and I love supporting other people to make their art. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure to talk to you. For everybody listening, if you would like to be featured on the Dear Mom, I'm Gay podcast, you can reach out to me at deargaypodcast@gmail.com and we can chat about getting you on here. But other than that, Rich and I are signing off here. Say goodbye, Rich.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Yes, we will see you next week. Thank you.